This is TWiT.
I do want to talk. So, tell me about Bending Spoons, Phil. Who are these people? They just bought Evernote. Is it kind of the end of Evernote?
I don't think so. I don't actually know that much about it. It's been 8 years since I've been with the company.
I know, but you must still. Your heart is still right. A little bit.
I left my heart in San Francisco, but I'm living in Arkansas now. Reward if found. Yeah, look, I still use Evernote every day. I have a lot of friends there. It seems like a good outcome.
Good. They bought Filmic, and they've done but mostly what they do video stuff. So it seemed like a little weird. Was it that the owners just wanted to get out from under it? Was it struggling? Do you know?
I don't think it was struggling, so I continue to be a shareholder of it. But again, I made the decision when I left about 8 years ago. So this was like 2015, I think, 2014, 2015. I decided to replace myself as the CEO, and my original plan was we'll get a CEO, and then I'll stay on as like executive chairman. I'll do product stuff. I'll do like strategery. I kind of wanted to do what like Reid Hoffman did at LinkedIn,
right?
When he brought Jeff on. That was kind of my model, and I knew there was like a 50% chance that it would work and a 50% chance that it wouldn't, because like you bring in a CEO, like what's actually going to happen is going to depend very much on the new CEO. And so we did a search, and it turned out within a few months of Chris O'Neill, who was the CEO who replaced me, and then Ian Small took over from that. It turns out within a few months that me hovering around was just like way too difficult. It was way too difficult for me, for the new guy, for the company. It's just like it just made no sense. And so I made a decision about 8 years ago that look, I'm okay, I got to be out. And I got to be out like completely, not like hovering around, being like, I would have done this. And
right.
Like, oh, you shouldn't really? Are you sure about that? Like, because the whole point is like, of course he would do things differently than I would have done them. That's why we decided to have him and not me. So I thought the best thing I could do was like, hey, I'm around for any kind of help if you ever need it, and I'm a supporter of the company and I'm a friend, but I'm not gonna hang around.
What year was that you kind of said, okay?
I think it was 2014 or 2015.
Okay.
So it's like it was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And
Chris O'Neill took over.
Chris O'Neill took over, and then he was there for a few years, and then Ian Small took over, and he's there now. Rolf Botta, who was at Sequoia, who was currently the senior steward of Sequoia, was kind of the main investor in Evernote when I was there, and he's still on my board at. So I've kept close to a bunch of the people. Obviously, still have a ton of friends there, and I think Bending Spoons bought it. Like, why would they buy it? Well, they bought it because they love it, because they think it's a great app, and because they think they can make it even more successful. Like, this is not there's no like magical nefarious reasons why an app company would buy something if they just intended to not do anything with it. So I feel pretty good about it. But again, I don't want to overstate my level of knowledge or involvement.
Yeah.
I think so.
Well, I think I was such a huge fan of Evernote. Did you read the blog post from Hitan Shah, the history of Evernote, or maybe you haven't seen it? Yeah. This was I recommend it. I don't know about its conclusions, and without your input, I don't know if he says ahead of its time, behind the curve, why Evernote failed to realize its potential. He starts with Stepan Pachikov and you getting together, creating Evernote. That's about when I found it. I had been using OneNote, and the thing I loved about Evernote was the ribbon thing that I think you brought to the table, this idea of this continuous note. I just loved it, and put everything in Evernote for a long time. It was long after you left. It was, I think, when they went to the subscription model that I finally said, I'm going to find another solution. And nowadays there are a lot of open source free solutions. This has become a very crowded market with a lot of different segments of the market. Note-taking by itself has, become, Zettelkasten and all this stuff. But Evernote for years was great. Were you there when they did the separate apps, like the Hello app and the Food app and all of that?
Yeah, so Evernote,
I loved that. But then they
basically
killed it.
So it started. there was a company called Evernote. It was a different company. It had a different capital N, and its logo was like this flying toilet paper. and
Not a great logo. Okay, good. All right.
It's not the world's best logo, but and that was started by Stepan Pachikov, who's a brilliant entrepreneur, inventor. And then I had just sold with my team. And they were in Silicon Valley. I had just sold my second company in Boston and started working on what I was calling Ribbon, as a way of like tie ribbon around your finger to help you remember stuff. I also wanted to build like an infinite memory. Met Stepan, and we just sort of really hit it off, and decided to kind of merge the two companies. And so we recreated Evernote. We kind of made a new corporate entity that was called Evernote in 2007.
No uppercase N, one word.
And so the thing that most people know with the elephant and all that stuff, that was that's what we started.
Elephant never forgets. Yeah.
And remember everything was the slogan. It's still the best thing I've ever written. It's kind of sad for me. It's like the best thing I'll probably ever write in my life is those two words. It's just remember everything. I was there for the first 9 years, and then I stayed on as I think chairman for another year after that. But we did a bunch of different apps. We did a lot of stuff. I think we kind of made productivity something that was cool again. I think
you were the first. Yeah, I mean, OneNote was there, but OneNote was way too complicated.
Yeah, and a bunch of people came after us. Afterwards, I'm happy to see it. I think the productivity industry right now is
huge,
better than it's ever been.
Yeah,
and that's cool. I feel a sense of pride to having contributed to that. And
this is
a great team.
This is the page in 2008. I got it on the Wayback Machine. Yeah, this is the remember every. See the cocktail napkin. Remember everything. God, those were the days.
They've got about 20 people.
Smartphone in that image.
Yeah, this is when Twitter was young and the iPhone just barely had 3G. Those were the days, my friend.
There was no iPhone. This was the first iPhone, and that shot was probably their web app because it was right before apps.
Yeah.
So I think we were on the App Store on the first day. We had a bunch of different apps. A few 100 million users, I think total. And then, like I said, my plan was to. I basically decided once we got to 400 people, 450 people, I was like, I'm just not having
That's
that much
a big
fun.
company. Yeah.
It's a big company. And I thought I'm just not, I thought we could get a better CEO because company was successful.
I'm not sure that's true, Phil.
And then when we talked a lot about being a 100-year startup. You remember that. I think I was on your show.
I remember.
And the 100-year startup meant that we want to be around in 100 years, but we still want to be a startup. We still want to be innovating. And a big part of the 100-year startup idea was me getting comfortable with the fact that I'm not going to be the CEO for 100 years.
Right. Obviously.
So it has to be my job to get the next person who's better, or else we failed. So once that happened, it was time to step away when it became obvious to me that having two people hanging around and making top decisions just wasn't going to be good for anyone. So
Evernote is one of those rare apps that it doesn't have users, it has fans. And people will evangelize.
I was one of them. I was absolutely a fan.
In a newsroom, Evernote, in the Houston Chronicle, reporters who got into Evernote would become pests. They would come up to you and go, "Are you not using Evernote? Why aren't you using?" It's like it became something that was evangelical, and there aren't a lot of apps that are like that, and Evernote certainly is one of them.
Yeah.
The thing that was so great about it, I don't know when this feature was added, but I feel like it took it to the next level for me because I've been using it for 8 or 10 years. I was using Yojimbo, a bare bones.
I used Yojimbo from Rich Siegel. Loved Yojimbo.
It just didn't. I think it just didn't fit into their evolution. Yeah. So I was like, it's like Yojimbo is the thing that fit my brain best. Mm-hmm. And so when I encountered Evernote, I'm like, and I actually figured out how to export Yojimbo to Evernote. It was great. And I was like, I need a junk drawer for my brain that matches my brain's internal organization scheme. But the thing that took me over and why I paid the subscription fee and still do is the built-in OCR, where that was not unheard of at the time, but it was pretty weak in a lot of apps. You had to use, Acrobat, have a paid subscription to Creative Cloud. And now I feel like the pervasiveness of OCR is, especially Apple, the last couple releases. I mean, they added this thing quietly where you could search in iOS 15 before the release of iOS 16, where only on the search screen you could search for text in your photo library, but you couldn't do it in Photos. Then they rolled it all out. And this notion that all text everywhere, so in Evernote now, in my Notes app, and Photos, and almost everything I do everywhere, all graphical text is now fairly effectively searchable. Say that 5 times fast. That is a massive difference in like the history of humanity. Not just like, I mean, data is great to store, but we have so much data that's not in text entered Unicode, whatever format. It's so anyway, Evernote, I felt like that was this big eye-opening thing where like I throw a thing in there, and at that time it took, I think, a few minutes sometimes to do the OCR, and now it's essentially instantaneous, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just a seamless process across all these apps.
Yeah, we did. I think we had a couple of innovations that are very much table stakes now. That we were mainstream with it first. One was OCR, one was just synchronizing automatically. Like it was the first time that I could like put something on my Mac and then pull it up on my iPhone.
Huge.
And, like I don't have to set up an FTP server, Mastodon instance, whatever they're called now. Like it just worked. There was no we were one of the first things that didn't have like the concept of a server. It wasn't users didn't really have any like options like that you want to use USB to move things over or FTP. It just worked. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. Remember, we were pre-cloud. The ubiquity of the cloud kind of came around after we were a couple of years old already. We had our own data centers, just like Twitter apparently does. Like we had to build our own data centers out. We were on the App Store from day one. We were kind of, as every company launched a mobile phone and an app, we had Apple did it, and then Google, and then BlackBerry, and Palm, and like all of these, app stores. Like there was 5 apps that every device had to have like on it, pre-installed, and it was always like Facebook, Twitter, a game, a web browser, and Evernote. We were the default thing, and those are all accomplishments that I feel great about. I feel great about being part of that team.
You should.
And I think, but like that's not enough. Now everyone does that, so it needs a new set of innovation. The stuff that Bending Spoons did is like honestly, like I hadn't heard of this company before, but I'd heard of their apps.
Yes, me too.
And the apps are cool, and they're innovative, and I feel hopeful.
They're beautiful.
That, they're going to like figure out the next amount of innovation. I mean, again, they wouldn't have bought it if they didn't think they can do it.
Uri Geller would never have founded the company. I'm getting confused.
So I was pissed when I was like, this had better be a Matrix reference and not a Uri Geller.
Oh, good. You're right. Yeah, you're right. Because the bending of spoons in the Matrix was real. So that's the difference. Just want to point that out.
It was definitely.
There it is.
Yeah,
Look he's doing it. He's putting it up there. Look at that.
Got it.
How do you do that? Wow.
It's definitely a Matrix reference.
That's good.
I think they're too young to know who Uri Geller was.
That's right.
Is that an iPhone in your hand? Wait a second. Is that an Apple Watch on your wrist? And do I see an iPad sitting there on the table? Oh my goodness! You are the perfect person to be watching iOS Today, the show where Rosemary Orchard and I, Micah Sargent, talk all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePod OS. It's all the OSs that Apple has on offer, and we show you how to make the most of those gadgets. Just head to twit.tv/iOS to check it out.